Kendy, would you enlighten us some?
Oh, I will do my best with that introduction. Well, wouldn't it be cool if I also had a duct tape story? I don't, but I think that would be really cool. As you said, my name is Kendy Cox, and I am the Director of Community-Based Training Services for the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative and Public Strategies, and I bring you greetings from Oklahoma. I'm so pleased to be here as a part of the conversation about what's developing here in Kansas. But actually, I do have to say I was a little disappointed as we drove in this morning because I thought that the farther north we went, the more the temperature would go down. But no such luck. It's just as hot here and maybe even a little hotter than it is in Oklahoma right now. Okay, we're here to talk about the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. And I do want to say that, we have the distinction of being the longest running statewide healthy marriage initiative in the country. However, I can distinctly remember sitting in seats just like this at the University of Central Oklahoma in Oklahoma City talking about what the heck we were going to do in Oklahoma about the high divorce rate and all of these negative statistics and very complex family problems. So I certainly think this is an important time and also an exciting time because you're figuring out what the future of Kansas is going to be, and I only hope that some of our lessons learned can help you as you do that. A brief history. Oh, wow. You really can't see that. We were developed in about 1999 as a result of a poor economy. At that time, economists told us, the leaders of Oklahoma, that we really needed to lower our divorce rate as a way to increase our per capita income. So over time, though, what started as a divorce reduction strategy has really expanded and become more comprehensive as a family strengthening program. For example, we are not just implementing strategies to directly decrease the divorce rate. We are working with youth. We are working with singles who are not currently in a relationship. So neither of those strategies will directly impact the divorce rate, at least for a long time into the future. So we're really talking about strengthening families throughout the state of Oklahoma. When we talk about the scope of the initiative, we are a statewide program. I think we made that decision early on that we could do a little pilot program in a few counties, but we really thought, heck, why not go for it? We're going to do it statewide. And as of today, we have services available in all 77 counties of the state of Oklahoma. We also have provided services to nearly 250,000 people to date, which is an impressive number, and we take careful consideration to pat ourselves on the back because that's what keeps us going day after day. But it's also only a small portion of the percentage of the population of the state, so our work continues to be cut out for us. And, we've been delivering services since 2001, so we also say that those folks that came to a workshop in 2001, it's probably time that we recruit them back into a workshop in 2011. So our work is never done. Today, I don't want to talk about the specific strategies of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. We do have a workshop on the schedule for tomorrow, and I encourage you to come and talk with us about all the different aspects of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. But today, I thought I'd spend my time talking about 5 tenets of what we call the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. These are principles that we believe have contributed to the success and longevity of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative over time. Now, some of these were by design, and some of them, I'll admit, were just plain dumb luck. And which is my secret to keep. I will not be divulging that today. The first one that I'd like to talk about is the fact that we are a model public-private partnership. The funding for the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative comes from our Oklahoma Department of Human Services. We received a block grant of TANF funds, and they allocate expenditures each year to the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative projects. However, day-to-day management of the initiative is conducted by a private firm, Public Strategies, and that's the company that I work for and Courtney works for, and some other folks that you will meet throughout this conference are employed by Public Strategies. And that is an interesting dynamic, and we believe is one of the hallmarks of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative, mainly because the agency of the Oklahoma Department of Human Services has a lot of credibility. They also have the money. They have access to low-income populations. They have access to existing services and resources. And all of that is an important part of the implementation of a statewide program like the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. However, many of you probably work for agencies in this room, and you realize that sometimes things take a long time to implement. There's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy, and not a lot of flexibility on a day-to-day basis. So in comes a private firm who really can approach this initiative from more of an entrepreneurial standpoint. And we believe that the creativity that the private firm has brought to the initiative has been really important in keeping the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative in the forefront of the minds of the state of Oklahoma. Secondly, we have focused on building supply over building demand. And I will say, in the early days of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative, this was a huge debate. I think there were the folks who said, let's go out, let's plaster every billboard with, we have a high divorce rate in the state of Oklahoma and we need to do something about it, kinds of messages. And while we definitely believed and still believe that that information is important for people to understand, we also did not want to get into the predicament of raising awareness of a problem without also offering a solution. So it a little bit became a chicken or the egg situation for us, because we also didn't want to build this elaborate service delivery system and have no one show up to the services, and that's always a risk, and it has happened to us, just like it has happened to many of you in the room as well, I'm sure. So, but we thought it was very, very important that we spend the early years of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative focused on kind of learning the ropes, training providers, identifying what makes the best marriage education service provider, and really kind of flying under the radar and building a service delivery system that had some legs to stand on before we went out and marketed that to the public. Now, you fast forward 10 years later, and a lot of our conversations are more about how to build demand, how to appeal to different audiences and meet them where they are, to encourage folks that this is important to everybody, not just someone who is struggling in their relationship right now. We also chose to implement a single curriculum statewide. I think this is another debate that folks have in different states and different community groups. You've seen community healthy marriage initiative strategies where they're using PrEP, they're using Prepare and Enrich, they're using, some programs that were developed locally and throwing everything in but the kitchen sink. And I certainly think there's some efficacy to that strategy. In Oklahoma, we took a different approach because we really wanted to develop some common language throughout the state. We chose PrEP because we believed at that time it had the strongest research foundation, and we did a lot of research about the different curricula that were available. So we chose PrEP, and we really wanted to develop this common language. For example, we thought, okay, in an ideal situation, if we had a high school student who is receiving PrEP in their high school class and was talking about the speaker-listener technique, and I have the floor and some of those concepts of PrEP, and they went home, and their parents happened to go to a couples-based workshop in the community, and they were also speaking that language, it would provide the best chance for success long-term in the state of Oklahoma. So we really are pleased with that decision, and we've been able to work with PrEP over time to develop adaptations that have met the needs of new target populations and allowed us to grow over time and not remain stagnant. We also decided that from the get-go, it was really important to us that we were grounded in research. We started in a little different context than many of you in this room, where nobody was talking about marriage as public policy. So it was very important to us that we took care of we covered all the bases that we possibly could so that we could have strategies that were defensible, frankly, at that time. It was important to us because we knew that we were going to be potentially attacked in a lot of different directions. And we were, right, Bill? And we didn't want that to be something that folks could aim at us. So that philosophy has continued over time. I think not only was the development grounded in research, but we have continued to look at the best research that's available and modify and adapt our strategies over time to make sure that we're most up to date in our thinking and our actions. And then last, we developed the Research Advisory Group in Oklahoma, and this is a group that meets annually and provides a lot of review and evaluation of what we're doing on the ground in Oklahoma. We respect and seek their guidance because they come from a lot of disciplines and a lot of groups nationally, and they can help guide us over time. And we look to them for guidance, and they look to us to provide them with real-life examples of what's happening with all that research that they talk about on a daily basis. So it's really a mutually beneficial relationship and something that's been replicated in other states since we began. We also developed a pretty comprehensive service delivery system using both agency staff and community volunteers. We thought that that was important. Obviously, agencies provide access to low-income populations. They're established. They already have those relationships. They have facilities that you can use in a readily accessible way. But we also wanted to appeal to the more local context of the initiative by bringing in maybe somebody who belongs to the local church who just has a passion for marriage and relationship education services. So we have trained a broad base of community volunteers that includes both agency staff and community volunteers, and that has contributed to the breadth and depth of our service delivery system. And we've trained more than 3,000 people to date, and I will say that the whole volunteer service delivery network thing sounds great on paper. It's very difficult to manage, and lo and behold, sometimes volunteers don't do what they say they're going to do. So that's a lesson learned for all of you as well. We thought that they would. We thought that they would be so self-motivated that if we trained 3,000 people would deliver workshops in an active way, and that's simply not the case. But it has allowed us, like I said, that breadth and depth, both geographically and with the skill set that they bring to the table. We couldn't manage that alone without 3,000 community volunteers placed across the state. Oh. Well, I skipped one at some point, I think. But last but certainly not least, and I have to say that those of you who've been writing down my 5 tenets of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative, this is 6. That's not a mistake. I just believe in bonus points. So this is the bonus tenet of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative. But last but certainly not least, we believe that safety should never be an afterthought. And from the beginning, we knew that the long-term success of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative would largely be attributed to our ability to partner with many different organizations across the state, not recreate the wheel, but also include messages that were important to them and are important to us. So from the get-go, we partnered with the Oklahoma Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and that has been one of the most important partnerships over time, and it has grown over time. I think it's been mutually beneficial because we've been able to seek training from them. With every time we train a new group of community volunteers, they come in and talk about red flags for abuse, what you should look for in workshop settings, if domestic violence is potentially happening in the home. But we also provide training to their advocates about what we're doing, what this is, and what this isn't, because I do think that there are a lot of misconceptions about marriage education programs within the domestic violence community. And so I think that has been a really important part of our strategy. We also have been able to, and made it an important part of our messaging to potential workshop participants to explain what this is and what this isn't. We would never want somebody to come to a workshop offered by the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative with the expectation that it was a domestic violence prevention program or intervention. So we want to make sure that people understand what this is and what this isn't. At the same time, we also know that we can't always be sure how and why people are getting into the room. So from the get-go, we worked very hard with those partners, and Ann Menard was involved in those discussions back in the early 2000s to develop a resource that is distributed to every single workshop participant without any disclosure. It is not asked. We do not ask any questions. We distribute it to everybody. That's called Getting Help When There Are More Serious Problems. And domestic violence is addressed, but also substance abuse issues, financial issues, and they are provided resources to be able to follow up on those resources if they need them. And that has been something that I think is important. And we continue to talk with our partners about how to get couples the best and most resources they possibly can, because we know that people will come to workshops trying to solve one need, and the workshop itself won't specifically address that need. So those are some areas that we continue to refine over time. We have a lot of different strategies that are a part of the Oklahoma Marriage Initiative, so if you are interested in how we're serving youth, how we're serving incarcerated individuals, our partnerships within the military, creative aspects of working with engaged couples, and so on and so forth, please visit our workshop tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.